file should not have been there. Marcus Reed knew that before he even picked it up. For 12 years, he had worked as a janitor at the Franklin County Courthouse. He knew every hallway, every storage room, every forgotten corner of the building better than most of the people who worked there. He knew which lights flickered, which doors stuck during humid weather, which offices stayed occupied long after everyone else went home. And he knew the basement storage room wasn't a place where active case files belong. Yet there it was, a brown folder lying behind a row of archive boxes that hadn't been touched in years. Marcus stared at it. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above him. Water dripped from a leaking pipe nearby. For a moment he simply stood there. Something felt wrong. Not dangerous. Not yet. Just wrong. Then he bent down and picked up the folder. The label immediately caught his attention. State of Ohio v. Daniel Holloway. Marcus froze. Even people who avoid the news knew that name. Daniel Holloway was at the center of the biggest criminal trial Franklin County had seen in years. Every morning reporters crowded the courthouse steps. Every afternoon television crews broadcast updates from outside the building. Every night social media exploded with arguments about whether Holloway was guilty. The victim had been Charles Whitmore, a wealthy businessman, powerful, connected, respected by many, feared by others. 8 months earlier, he had been found murdered inside a downtown parking garage. Since then, the entire city had become obsessed with the case. Most people believed Daniel Holloway would soon be convicted. The evidence appeared overwhelming. The prosecution claimed they had surveillance footage, witness testimony, phone records, a timeline that placed Holloway at the scene. The verdict seemed inevitable. Yet somehow a file connected to that case had ended up hidden behind forgotten boxes in a basement storage room. Marcus slowly opened the folder. The first page was an evidence review report. The second contained photographs. The third held handwritten notes. He flipped through them carefully, his brow furrowed. He wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't an investigator. But even he could tell something wasn't right. Several pages contained markings, questions, corrections, observations. One sentence had been circled repeatedly. Security timeline inconsistent. Marcus stared at those words. Inconsistent. That single word bothered him, because every news report had described the timeline as airtight, beyond dispute, impossible to challenge. So why would an internal review describe it differently? A sound suddenly echoed from the hallway. Footsteps. Marcus quickly closed the folder. His heart skipped. The footsteps approached the storage room, then passed. Whoever it was kept walking. Marcus exhaled slowly, but the uneasy feeling remained. He slipped the folder inside his cleaning cart. For the rest of the afternoon, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Every hallway he cleaned, every trash can he emptied, every courtroom he passed, his mind kept returning to the file. By the time his shift ended, curiosity had completely taken over. He brought the folder home. That decision would change his life, and many others. Across town, Judge Alina Bennett sat alone in her chambers. Stacks of documents covered her desk. The Holloway trial had consumed nearly 6 months of her life. At 62, she was known as one of the most respected judges in the state. Fair, disciplined, careful. Her rulings rarely faced criticism. Her courtroom rarely tolerated chaos. Yet lately something had been bothering her. Not evidence, not testimony, a feeling, a quiet doubt she couldn't explain. The prosecution's case looked strong. The defense appeared exhausted. The jury seemed convinced. Everything pointed toward conviction. So why couldn't she shake the feeling that something was missing? Alina hated uncertainty. It frightened her more than she ever admitted. A judge could survive criticism. A judge could survive public pressure. But making the wrong decision haunted a person forever. She knew that, because years earlier she had made one. A mistake she still remembered. A mistake nobody else knew about. The memory surfaced whenever she looked at Daniel Holloway. And she hated it. Not because she believed he was innocent. Because she wasn't completely sure. Meanwhile, Daniel Holloway sat alone inside a detention cell. The silence pressed against him. He had become accustomed to the silence, the waiting, the endless uncertainty. For months he had watched his life disappear piece by piece. His career, his reputation, his future, gone. Every newspaper called him a murderer. Every television panel discussed his guilt. Even strangers seemed convinced they knew exactly who he was. Yet nobody knew the truth. Not completely. Daniel carried a secret. A secret he had refused to reveal. Not because it would save him. Because it would destroy someone else. That secret had kept him silent throughout the trial. And his silence had slowly become another piece of evidence against him. He understood that. But he still couldn't bring himself to talk. Sometimes protecting the truth came with a terrible cost. Back in his apartment, Marcus spread the file across his kitchen table. He brewed coffee, sat down, and began reading. Hours passed. The deeper he went, the stranger things became. Several photographs appeared duplicated. Except they weren't. The timestamps differed. Only slightly. But enough to matter. One document referenced a surveillance extraction. Another referenced a maintenance outage. The times didn't match. Marcus compared pages again. Then again. The contradictions remained. Near midnight he found something else. A signature. Assistant District Attorney Ryan Mercer. Marcus recognized the name instantly. Mercer was one of the lead prosecutors. Confident. Popular. Ambitious. Television cameras loved him. Jurors trusted him. Politicians respected him. According to the file, Mercer had personally reviewed the evidence concerns months earlier. Yet those concerns never appeared during trial. Marcus leaned back. Why? The question lingered. Why review these issues and then ignore them? Unless someone wanted them ignored. The thought made him uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. He closed the folder, then reopened it. Something wasn't adding up. The next morning, the courthouse felt more crowded than ever. Closing arguments were approaching. Reporters rushed through hallways. Lawyers carried stacks of documents. Deputies monitored every entrance. The building seemed alive with anticipation. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart through the third-floor corridor. Nobody paid attention to him. Nobody ever did. That was the strange thing about being a janitor. People talked freely around you. As if you weren't there. As if you couldn't hear. As if you didn't matter. Over the years, Marcus had learned how much information people revealed when they believed nobody was listening. That morning proved no different. Two attorneys stood near a courtroom entrance. Marcus passed slowly. Their conversation drifted toward him. The timeline sealed it. Absolutely. The jury won't get past that. Timeline. Again. Always the timeline. Marcus continued walking. But now his curiosity had become concern. Because the file suggested the timeline wasn't nearly as reliable as everyone believed. At lunchtime he made a decision. He would show the folder to someone. Someone who understood investigations. Someone independent. Someone he trusted. That person was Lena Torres. Lena had spent nearly 15 years as a detective before leaving law enforcement. Some said she resigned. Others claimed she had been forced out. The truth was complicated. Lena had a habit of asking questions powerful people didn't like. That tendency rarely led to promotions. Marcus found her office late that afternoon. The moment she saw the file, her expression changed. What is this? I'm hoping you can tell me. Lena opened the folder. She began reading. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Her face grew increasingly serious. Marcus watched carefully. Finally, she looked up. Where did you get this? He explained everything. The basement, the hidden shelf, the missing label, the storage room. When he finished, Lena remained silent. That worried him more than any reaction she could have given. Is it important? Marcus asked. Lena slowly turned a photograph toward him. 2 images, nearly identical, except for one detail. The timestamps. They can't both be correct, she said. Marcus nodded. I thought so. Lena flipped to another page, then another. Suddenly she stopped. Her eyes narrowed. She read a handwritten note, then read it again. What is it? Marcus asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed him the page. A short sentence had been scribbled in the margin. Video source replaced after extraction. Marcus frowned. What does that mean? Lena looked directly at him. For the first time since he arrived, genuine concern appeared in her eyes. It means the video evidence shown to the jury may not be the original file. The room fell silent. Marcus stared, trying to process what she had said. If that's true. Lena nodded. I know. The prosecution's entire case could be based on evidence that was altered. Neither spoke for several seconds. Outside, traffic moved through the city. People walked past the office. Normal life continued, completely unaware that a forgotten file had just raised a terrifying possibility. Lena closed the folder. Her mind raced, because another detail suddenly stood out. Someone hadn't merely misplaced this file. Someone had hidden it. Deliberately, carefully, successfully, for months, perhaps longer, which meant one thing. Someone knew exactly how dangerous its contents were. And if that person discovered the file had resurfaced, they would probably want it back. The realization sent a chill through both of them. Neither noticed the black sedan parked across the... Neither noticed the man sitting behind the wheel. Watching. Waiting. Observing the office entrance through tinted windows. He lifted a phone. Dialed the number. Then quietly spoke. The file has been found. A long pause followed. The driver listened. Then nodded. I'll keep watching. The call ended. The sedan remained where it was. Engine running. Lights off. Unmoving. And for the first time since Marcus pulled the folder from that basement shelf, someone else knew the secret was no longer buried. The following morning, Lena arrived at her office before sunrise. She locked the door, closed the blinds, placed the missing file in the center of her desk. Then she started reading again. The first time she had searched for obvious problem. The second time she searched for pattern. Now she was looking for something else. A motive. Because evidence rarely disappeared without a reason. People didn't hide files for fun. They hid them because the truth inside threatened someone. The question was who? Lena moved through the documents page by page. Several discrepancies immediately stood out. Different timestamps, conflicting reports, missing signatures. But one detail caught her attention more than anything else. A maintenance log. According to the log, the parking garage surveillance system experienced a temporary outage on the night of Charles Whitmore's murder. Only a few minutes. Nothing dramatic. Yet those minutes happened to overlap with part of the timeline presented at trial. Lena checked the accompanying records, then checked them again. Her pulse slowly increased. The outage should have interrupted the recording. Yet the prosecution's timeline showed uninterrupted footage. That made no sense. Unless the footage shown in court wasn't the original recording. The same possibility she had already feared. A knock interrupted her thought. Marcus entered carrying 2 coffee. He immediately noticed her expression. Bad news. Lena looked up. Potentially. She slid the maintenance log across the desk. Marcus studied it. I don't understand. The camera system went offline. So, The video shown during trial shouldn't exist in its current form. Marcus stared. The realization slowly spread across his face. Someone changed it. Maybe. You keep saying maybe. Because assumptions are dangerous. Marcus sat down. But you think it. Lena leaned back. For a moment she said nothing. Then she nodded. Yes. The room became quiet. Neither liked where the evidence was leading. Because once evidence tampering entered the picture, nothing could be trusted anymore. Not witnesses. Not timelines. Not official record. Nothing. Across town, Judge Alina Bennett entered the courthouse through a private entrance. Reporters already crowded the front steps. The final stage of a Holloway trial had become a media spectacle. Every camera wanted a reaction. Every journalist wanted a headline. Alina ignored them all. She preferred facts over noise. Unfortunately, facts had become increasingly difficult to find. As she walked toward her chambers, a clerk approached. Judge. Alina stopped. Yes. The janitor came back. Her expression tightened. The same one. Yes. He still claims he found information related to the case. The judge sighed. She had dozens of motions, hundreds of pages waiting, an entire trial hanging over her shoulders. The last thing she needed was another distraction. Did he submit anything formally? No. Then tell him the same thing. The clerk hesitated. He seemed concerned. So is everyone else. Alina continued walking. The conversation ended, but something about it lingered. A janitor had now attempted to contact her twice. Most people would have given up after the first rejection. Why hadn't he? Meanwhile, Marcus sat in a courthouse hallway feeling more frustrated than ever. He had genuinely believed the judge might listen. Instead, he had been dismissed again. Not because anyone examined the evidence. Not because anyone disproved it. Simply because he wasn't considered important enough. The feeling stung. He wasn't looking for attention. He wasn't looking for recognition. He just didn't want an innocent person convicted because nobody bothered to look closer. As he sat there, two prosecutors walked past. Marcus immediately recognized one of them. Ryan Mercer. The man whose signature appeared inside the file. Mercer looked exactly like he did on television. Confident. Polished. Certain. The type of person who entered a room expecting everyone to agree with him. Marcus watched him disappear around a corner. Then a thought entered his mind. What if Mercer already knew about the discrepancy? The possibility made him uneasy. Very uneasy. Later that afternoon, Lena received an unexpected phone call. The woman on the other end sounded nervous. Almost frightened. My name is Heather Collins. Lena immediately recognized it. Heather had testified during the Holloway trial. A relatively minor witness. Nothing about her testimony had attracted much attention. How can I help you? Lena asked. Silence followed. Then a shaky breath. I think I made a mistake. Lena sat forward. What kind of mistake? During my testimony. Lena's attention sharpened instantly. What about it? Another pause, as if Heather was struggling to decide whether to continue. Finally she spoke. I didn't tell the whole truth. An hour later they met at a quiet coffee shop far from downtown. Heather arrived wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. She constantly glanced toward the windows, toward the entrance, toward the parking lot. Fear followed her everywhere. Lena noticed immediately. Who are you afraid of? Heather looked down. I don't know. That answer concerned Lena more than a name would have. Because people who knew their enemy could prepare. People who didn't were vulnerable. What happened? Lena asked. Heather swallowed. The night Charles Whitmore died, I saw someone. Lena frowned. You testified about seeing Daniel Holloway. I know. What changed? Heather's hands tightened around her coffee cup. I saw someone else first. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Dangerous. Potentially explosive. Lena remained calm. Tell me everything. Heather took a deep breath. The other person entered the garage before Holloway arrived. Lena felt her pulse quicken. How much earlier? Maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That was enough to destroy the prosecution's timeline. If true, a very important if. Why didn't you mention this before? Heather's eyes filled with tears. Because somebody told me not to. Lena froze. Who? I don't know his name. What did he say? Heather looked away. He told me memory isn't always reliable. And a tear rolled down her cheek. He knew where my daughter went to school. For several seconds, neither spoke. The meaning was obvious. Heather hadn't forgotten. She had been intimidated. Someone wanted her silent. And apparently they had succeeded. Until now. Back at the courthouse, another problem was beginning to emerge. Beth Lawson worked in records management. Most employees barely noticed her, which suited her perfectly. Beth preferred paperwork to records made sense. People rarely did. That afternoon she discovered something strange while reviewing archived evidence log. One access record didn't match the audit history. At first she assumed it was a technical error. Then she checked again. And again. The discrepancy remained. Someone had modified an evidence access record months earlier. Not updated it. Modified it. The difference mattered. Because updates were normal. Modifications were not. Beth printed the file. Studied it carefully. Then felt a knot form in her stomach. Whoever made the change possessed unusually high-level access privileges. The kind ordinary employees never receive. She folded the page and slipped it into her purse. A decision she would later regret. That evening Marcus returned home exhausted. The stress was beginning to wear on him. Every day brought more questions. More inconsistencies. More uncertainty. Yet no answers. He unlocked his apartment door. Stepped inside. Then immediately stopped. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The living room looked normal. The kitchen looked normal. Everything appeared exactly as he had left it. Yet Marcus couldn't shake the feeling. Slowly he walked toward the bedroom. His pulse quickened. The closet door stood slightly open. He was certain he had closed it before leaving. Marcus approached carefully, then pulled it open. Inside, nothing appeared missing. Except for one thing. His backpack had been moved. Only a few inches. But moved. Marcus knew it. The realization sent a wave of cold fear. Someone had entered his apartment. Someone had searched through his belongings. And someone had been careful enough to leave almost no trace. Almost. He immediately called Lena. She answered after the first ring. What happened? Marcus explained everything. By the time he finished, Lena's expression had darkened. They're looking for the file. Marcus swallowed. You think so? I know so. The certainty in her voice frightened him. What do we do? Lena looked toward the window. Traffic passed outside. People hurried home from work. Normal life. Normal problems. Normal worries. Yet somewhere nearby, someone was actively searching for the missing document. Someone growing more desperate every day. We keep digging, she said. Marcus blinked. That's your plan. It's the only plan. What if they come back? Lena remained silent for a moment, then answered honestly. They probably will. That night, neither Marcus nor Lena noticed the gray sedan parked near Marcus's apartment building. The same sedan that had watched Lena's office. The same sedan that appeared whenever questions got too close. Inside sat a man with a camera, a notebook, and instructions. Simple instructions. Watch. Report. Wait. Nothing more. For now. Because somewhere else in the city, another person was receiving updates. A person with far more power. A person who had spent months believing the missing file was gone forever. And that person was beginning to realize a dangerous reality. The file had survived. The questions were spreading. Witnesses were talking. Records were surfacing. And if someone didn't stop the investigation soon, the entire case against Daniel Holloway might begin to unravel. Marcus didn't sleep much that night. Every sound outside his apartment pulled him awake. Every passing car made him glance toward the window. The realization that someone had entered his home changed everything. Until now, the situation had felt distant. Strange. Concerning. But distant. Now it felt personal. Whoever was searching for the file wasn't operating from the shadows anymore. They were getting closer. And that frightened him more than he wanted to admit. Just after sunrise, his phone rang. Lena. Meet me. Her voice sounded different. Tighter. More urgent. What happened? I found something. Marcus sat up immediately. What? A name. An hour later, they met inside a quiet public library several miles from downtown. Lena never used her office anymore. Not after the break-in. Not after discovering someone was washing. The library felt safer. At least for now. Marcus sat across from her. What name? Lena slid an old newspaper clipping across the table. A photograph stared back at him. An older man. Silver hair. Expensive suit. Confident smile. The type of person who looked comfortable around power. Thomas Garrison. Marcus studied the article. The name meant nothing to him. Who is he? Lena leaned back. For nearly 20 years, he oversaw administrative operations connected to the county court system. Marcus frowned. So he had access. Access to what? Everything. The answer lingered between them. Court records. Evidence storage. Internal archives. Digital systems. Personnel files. Almost everything passed through departments connected to Garrison. Marcus slowly lowered the article. And you think he's involved? I don't know. Lena was careful. She hated assumptions. But I think he's connected. What makes you say that? She opened a folder. Inside sat copies of old internal reviews. Archived complaints. Most had gone nowhere. All contained a familiar pattern. Missing records. Lost evidence. Vanished documents. Dismissed concerns. And somehow Thomas Garrison's name appeared around the edges of each story. Never in the center. Never directly. Always nearby. Always just out of reach. Marcus felt a chill. Nobody investigated him. They tried. What happened? Lena gave a humorless smile. The investigations disappeared too. For several moments, neither spoke. The picture forming in front of them wasn't pretty. Because it suggested the missing file might not be connected to a single trial. Or a single murder. It might be connected to something much larger. Meanwhile, inside the courthouse, Judge Alina Bennett sat alone reviewing evidence record. She had told herself she was only satisfying curiosity. Nothing more. Yet deep down she knew that wasn't true. The anonymous notes had unsettled her. The repeated attempts by the janitor had unsettled her. And now a question refused to leave her mind. What happened to Exhibit 47B? She located the record again. Studied it carefully. The notation looked incomplete. As though something had been removed. Not deleted. Removed. A subtle distinction. But judges learned to notice subtle distinctions. The more she examined the file, the less comfortable she became. Finally, she picked up the phone. Get me the original submission records. The clerk sounded surprised. For Exhibit 47B. Yes. Right away. When the records arrived 40 minutes later, Alina immediately noticed a discrepancy. The original inventory listed 3 supporting attachments. The current inventory listed 2. One attachment had vanished. No explanation. No notation. No authorization. Simply gone. Her stomach tightened. Evidence didn't disappear from major murder trials. At least it wasn't supposed to. Across town, Heather Collins sat inside her car gripping the steering wheel. She hadn't told anyone where she was going. She hadn't told anyone she planned to speak again. Fear followed her constantly now. The fear that somebody knew. The fear that somebody was watching. The fear that she had waited too long. Her phone vibrated. An unknown number. Heather hesitated, then answered. No one spoke. Only silence. A few seconds later, the call ended. Her blood ran cold, because it wasn't the first time. 3 calls in 2 days. No voice. No message. Just silence. A reminder. Someone knew exactly where she was. Back at the library, Lena continued digging through old records. Hours passed. The deeper she looked, the more connections appeared. Not proof. Not yet. But connections. Patterns. Threads. Then she found something unexpected. A name she recognized. Ryan Mercer. Marcus noticed immediately. What is it? Lena turned the page. The prosecutor's name appeared inside an administrative report from 6 years earlier. A report involving evidence handling. Marcus frowned. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe. Lena continued reading. Then another document surfaced. Mercer's name appeared again. Different report. Different year. Same department. Thomas Garrison's department. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. You think they know each other? Lena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she opened another file. Then another. And another. By the end of the afternoon, she had identified 4 separate professional connections between the 2. Not enough to prove wrongdoing. Enough to raise questions. Serious questions. For the first time, Marcus saw genuine concern in her face. This isn't good. What if Mercer knew Garrison? She stopped, thinking carefully. Marcus waited. If Mercer knew Garrison, she continued, then the missing file may have passed through people connected to both men. The implications were obvious. Too obvious. At nearly the same moment, Ryan Mercer sat inside his office staring at a photograph. Not a courtroom photograph. Not a crime scene image. A personal photograph. Several men standing together at a fundraising event years earlier. Among them stood Thomas Garrison. Mercer stared at the image, his expression unreadable. Then his phone rang. He answered immediately. What now? The voice on the other end spoke quickly. Mercer's face hardened. No. More information. His jaw tightened. No, absolutely not. Silence. Then another response. Finally, Mercer hung up. For several moments, he remained motionless. The situation was deteriorating. Witnesses were talking. Questions were spreading. Records were resurfacing. And now Judge Bennett herself was reviewing evidence inventory. That development worried him more than anything else. Because judges could ignore rumor. Judges could ignore speculation. But once a judge started asking questions, everything changed. That evening, Marcus returned home. This time he checked every room before stepping inside. The apartment appeared untouched. No signs of entry. No signs of tampering. Nothing unusual. Yet the feeling remained. Someone was watching. Someone was waiting. Someone was interested in the file. His phone rang. Lena again. I need to show you something. An hour later, Marcus arrived at her temporary workspace. She had pinned documents across an entire wall. Photographs. Names. Timelines. Reports. Connections. The investigation had become a puzzle. And for the first time, A picture was beginning to emerge. Marcus stared. That's a lot. It gets worse. Lena pointed toward the center. 3 names stood connected by red lines. Daniel Holloway, Ryan Mercer, Thomas Garrison. Marcus looked confused. What's the connection? I don't know yet. Then why connect them? Lena's eyes remained fixed on the board. Because something had been bothering her all day. A question. A simple question. One nobody seemed to ask. If Daniel Holloway is guilty, she said quietly, why hide evidence? Marcus blinked. What? If the case is legitimate, the missing file serves no purpose. She pointed toward the documents. If the evidence is solid, you don't need to hide contradictory reports. Marcus felt a chill. Because she was right. The entire conspiracy depended on one uncomfortable possibility. Someone needed the evidence hidden. Someone benefited from the truth disappearing. The question was why. Suddenly Lena's phone buzzed. A message. Unknown sender. No name. No number. Only a photograph. Her expression changed instantly. Marcus noticed. What happened? Lena turned the screen toward him. The photograph showed Beth Lawson leaving the courthouse earlier that evening. Marcus frowned. Who's that? Court record. Another message appeared seconds later. This one contained only 4 words. She found it too. Neither spoke. The meaning was obvious. Whoever sent the message knew about Beth. Knew she discovered something. Knew she was now part of the story. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. That's not a warning. No. Lena stared at the screen. It's a threat. Across town, Beth Lawson exited a grocery store carrying 2 bags. She looked tired. Ready to go home. Ready to forget about audit logs and evidence record. Unfortunately, someone else had different plan. A dark sedan sat across the street. Engine running. Lights off. Washing. Waiting. The driver observed Beth carefully. Then reached for a phone. A call connected. Only one sentence was spoken. She has the document. The line disconnected. The sedan remained parked. Motionless. Patient. And somewhere beyond the city lights, a powerful figure received the update and made a decision. A dangerous decision. Because the missing file was no longer the only problem. Too many people were asking questions now. Too many people were finding pieces of the... And if the investigation continued much longer, they might finally discover what really happened on the night Charles Whitmore was murdered. Not the version presented in court. Not the version shown on television. The real version. The version somebody had spent months trying to bury. And they were becoming desperate enough to do almost anything to keep it hidden. The next morning began with panic. Beth Lawson never arrived at work. At first nobody paid attention. Employees were late all the time. Traffic. Family emergency. Appointments. Life happened. But by 10 o'clock, people started noticing. Beth never missed work. Not once in 7 years. By noon, concern spread through the records department. By 1 o'clock, Lena received a call. The moment she heard the news, her stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. An hour later, Beth finally appeared. Exhausted. Shaken. Terrified. She hadn't been injured. She hadn't been kidnapped. But someone had followed her home. Someone had parked outside her apartment for hours. Someone had wanted her to know she was being watched. The message had been clear. Stop asking questions. Beth did the opposite. That afternoon she met with Lena and for nearly an hour she explained what she had discovered. The modified audit record. The altered access logs. The missing authorization entry. Every detail pointed toward the same conclusion. Someone had manipulated evidence records months earlier. Not accidentally. Deliberately. Carefully. Professionally. When Beth finally handed over the printed record, Lena immediately understood their significance. This wasn't speculation anymore. This was documentation. Real documentation. The kind that could survive scrutiny. The kind that could force answers. Marcus looked from Beth to Lena. Is this enough? Lena hesitated. No. His face fell. But it's close. That answer was enough to keep hope alive. Meanwhile, inside Franklin County Courthouse, Judge Alina Bennett sat alone reviewing the latest evidence inventory. The missing attachment connected to Exhibit 47B continued bothering her. Nothing about the situation made sense. Evidence didn't simply disappear. Not in a case this important. Not without a reason. The deeper she looked, the more inconsistencies emerged. Minor inconsistency. Tiny inconsistency. The sort most people overlooked. Yet when combined, they painted an uncomfortable picture. One discrepancy could be explained. 5 became suspicious. 10 became impossible to ignore. Finally, Alina made a decision. A dangerous decision. She ordered an internal review. Quietly. Privately. Without informing prosecutor. Without informing defense attorney. Without informing anyone beyond a small circle of trusted staff. If something had gone wrong inside her courtroom, she intended to find it. No matter where the truth led. Across town, Ryan Mercer learned about the review before sunset. The news hit him like a punch. His sources inside the courthouse remained reliable. Too reliable. He immediately understood the danger. Judge Bennett wasn't merely asking questions anymore. She was investigating. That changed everything. For the first time in months, genuine fear appeared behind his carefully controlled expression. Because investigations had a habit of uncovering things. Things that were supposed to stay buried. That evening, Mercer drove alone to a secluded property outside the city. The drive took nearly 40 minutes. When he arrived, another vehicle already waited. A black SUV. Mercer parked beside it. Then entered the house. Thomas Garrison sat at the kitchen table. Older now. Retired officially. But still carrying the same quiet authority. The same confidence. The same influence. Neither man smiled. Neither offered pleasantry. The situation had moved beyond that. Mercer sat down. We have a problem. Garrison nodded. I know. The judge is reviewing record. I know. The file resurfaced. I know. Every answer sounded calm. Too calm. Mercer hated it. Because calm meant Garrison wasn't surprised. And if Garrison wasn't surprised, then he had probably anticipated this moment long ago. What do we do? For the first time, Garrison looked directly at him. We tell the truth. Mercer stared, certain he had misheard. The truth. Garrison nodded. Part of it. Silence filled the room. Because both men understood the difference. Part of the truth could save them. All of the truth could destroy them. Back in the city, Lena finally discovered the missing piece. The breakthrough arrived shortly after midnight. She had spent hours comparing timeline, phone records, witness statements, surveillance logs, everything. Then suddenly she saw it. A contradiction hidden in plain sight. The prosecution's timeline depended entirely on one assumption. That Daniel Holloway entered the parking garage first. Yet multiple buried records suggested otherwise. Heather Collins had seen another person enter earlier. Maintenance logs contradicted camera footage. Evidence inventories showed missing attachment. Together, the pieces revealed something shocking. Daniel Holloway may never have been the primary suspect. He may have become the suspect later. After the evidence was reorganized. After the narrative was built. After somebody needed a convenient target. Lena immediately called Marcus. Then Beth. Then Claire Monroe. By sunrise, they were all staring at the same document. The same timeline. The same conclusion. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. If Daniel isn't the real target, Claire finished the thought, then somebody else is. The realization changed everything. Because it meant the case wasn't simply about convicting one man. It was about protecting another. The following morning, court reconvened. The gallery overflowed. Reporters packed every available seat. Everyone expected routine proceedings. Nobody expected what happened next. Judge Bennett entered. The room stood, then sat. The judge looked unusually serious. Even before she spoke, people sensed something was different. She reviewed several documents, adjusted her glasses, then addressed both legal teams. There are matters concerning evidence integrity that this court intends to examine. The room immediately grew silent. Ryan Mercer's face changed. Only slightly, but enough. Claire Monroe noticed. So did Lena. So did Marcus. The judge continued. Certain records recently brought to the court's attention raised significant procedural concerns. Whispers spread through the gallery. Reporters grabbed notebooks. Court staff exchanged glances. Nobody knew exactly what was happening. Only that something important had shifted. For the next 2 hours, records were introduced. Audit logs, evidence inventories, maintenance reports, witness statements. One inconsistency after another emerged. Each alone seemed minor. Together they became devastating. Then came the moment that changed everything. Heather Collins took the stand again. The courtroom watched in silence. This time she told the complete story. The earlier arrival, the second individual, the intimidation, the threats. Nothing remained hidden. When she finished, the atmosphere inside the courtroom felt entirely different. The certainty that once surrounded the case had vanished. In its place stood doubt. Massive doubt. Reasonable doubt. The kind that destroys prosecution. Then Beth Lawson testified. Her records confirmed unauthorized modifications. Her documentation confirmed access irregularity. Her testimony confirmed that evidence logs had been altered. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Judge Bennett repeatedly called for order. Yet even she struggled to hide her reaction. Because the picture had become impossible to ignore. Somebody had manipulated the system. The only remaining question was who. That answer arrived unexpectedly. Not from Lena. Not from Marcus. Not from Beth. From Thomas Garrison. Late that afternoon, he walked into the courthouse voluntarily. Reporters nearly lost their minds. Cameras followed him everywhere. Nobody understood why he had come. Not until he requested a private meeting with investigators. Hours later, the truth emerged. Piece by piece. Garrison admitted that evidence reviews had been suppressed. Records had been altered. Procedural concerns had been hidden. Not to frame Daniel Holloway specific. To protect powerful individuals connected to Charles Whitmore. Whitmore had been involved in financial dealings capable of exposing influential people throughout the county. When his murder occurred, panic followed. The investigation quickly became less about finding the truth and more about controlling the damage. Daniel Holloway became used. A suspect. A distraction. A solution. Not because everyone believed he was guilty. Because enough people were willing to pretend. The revelation stunned the city. But one final shock remained. The actual conspiracy stretched far beyond the murder itself. The missing file had never been hidden merely to secure a conviction. It had been hidden because it contained the first thread leading toward years of corruption. Missing evidence. Altered record. Protected interest. Compromised investigations. The Holloway case was only one chapter. The conspiracy was much larger. Much older. Much deeper. Days later, Judge Bennett formally dismissed the conviction proceedings against Daniel Holloway. A new investigation was ordered. Independent prosecutors were assigned. Multiple officials resigned. Several others faced criminal inquiry. The headlines dominated nationally. For Daniel Holloway, freedom felt strange, almost unreal. Months of fear, months of uncertainty, months of watching his life collapse. And now, suddenly, possibility returned. Not happiness, not immediately, but possibility. Sometimes that was enough. As for Ryan Mercer, his career ended almost overnight. Investigators examined his actions, his decisions, his connections. The future he once envisioned disappeared, just as quickly as it had arrived. Thomas Garrison faced consequences as well. His influence vanished. His reputation collapsed. The secrets he had protected for years finally surfaced. One by one, truth had a way of doing that. Eventually, several weeks later, Marcus Ridd returned to his normal routine. The same hallways, the same floors, the same courthouse. At first glance, nothing seemed different. Yet everything had changed. Employees greeted him now. Lawyers recognized him. Even judges knew his name. The attention felt strange. Marcus never wanted recognition. He never wanted headlines. He never wanted to become part of the story. He simply refused to ignore something that felt wrong. And that decision changed countless lives. One afternoon, Judge Bennett found him cleaning a hallway. She stopped. Marcus looked up. The judge smiled softly. "I owe you an apology." Marcus blinked. "What for?" "I should have listened sooner." For a moment neither spoke. Then Marcus shrugged. "You listened eventually." The judge smiled again. Fortunately. As she walked away, Marcus returned to work. The floor still needed cleaning. The trash still needed emptying. Left moved forward. Yet one thought remained. A simple thought. The entire conspiracy began unraveling because a janitor noticed a file that wasn't supposed to be there. A file everyone else overlooked. A file somebody believed would remain hidden forever. They were wrong. And that's what makes this story not the corruption, not the conspiracy, not even the courtroom drama. The remarkable part is that the truth survived. Buried, ignored, forgotten, but not destroyed. And eventually, one ordinary person chose not to look away. If you had been sitting in that courtroom, when would you have realized something was wrong? Was it the missing file? The altered timeline? The witness who changed her story? Or did you suspect the conspiracy much earlier? Let us know when the mystery first started to unravel.